So welcome back, guys. Spring is finally upon us. Matter of fact, it almost feels like summer. The sun is shining bright. I think it's probably in the high 80s right now here at the homestead property. Back at the house in town right on the beach, it's probably in the 50s right now. So again, huge temperature difference between the coast and just 3 miles in. Regardless, I'm happy that the sun is shining. Today, this week, I'm actually working on some planning projects. You saw me unloading the lumber there. That's for my next build project, which is going to be a shed style roof that's going to hang over this gable end of the building here. So it'll be 15 by 12 foot with a 12-1 slope on the roof. Metal roof going this way to shed water there. Purpose of this space is to store the tractor under here. So I'll put more stone down in this space and be able to store the tractor and the lawnmower and so forth under this lean-to shed style roof. So that's the next build project. I ordered the metal roof this morning, so I'm not going to begin this project till the metal roof gets here. I'll probably be able to complete this in no more than 2 days. So that should be here sometime next week, and then we'll tackle this build. You saw Gary doing the final grade where the house was demolished, so that's looking real good. He's been waiting for the rain to stop, let that dirt dry up a little bit before he did the final grade. So that's looking sweet. He's also going to help me knock down a tree on the opposite side from where we're standing, where we're going to put the RV pad. So that's where we're going to park the Airstream this summer, and actually spend some time living out here in the Airstream to get a sense of actually living on the property. So that development project is coming up. I've got to tie into the septic system. I've got to bring power to the RV site and water. So that's coming up. Speaking of water, I still have to bring the water up to the garden area, so that'll be a big project. Again, these are things I have been anxious to get started on, but because the weather's been so crummy, I haven't been able to do it. Gary has also done a little driveway work for us today. We came in under budget on the clearing of the back corner of the property that you saw a couple of weeks ago. So I've had him do some needed driveway repair. We had so much rain this winter that I had some washout areas on the driveway, and anyway, those have been repaired. So that's what's happening there. And again, this week I'm going to be just working on some planning projects. I'm looking over toward the pad, and this doe just walked out right in front of me. I'll show you. I love this. There she is. Yeah, no big deal. That's what we get around here. So all kinds of wildlife and plants, everything's emerging. The sun's out. So I'm looking at these little flying bugs behind you. They're swarming. I can hear the bees buzzing. Flowers are starting to bloom. We've got blooms on the apple trees. So I love this time of the year. It's all coming alive, and it's great. Hey guys, so Lisa is involved with our local community theater, and she just left about 10 minutes ago to practice for an upcoming production that'll occur this summer. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we're now full on spring, which is great. The weather's real pleasant, no wind at this particular time of the year. The winds shift from blowing from the south during the wintertime to blowing from the north during the summertime. And there's typically about a month, which is happening right now, where the winds are slack. So it's real nice to be outside right here on the coast. Tonight, I thought that I'd take a few minutes and talk to you guys about the top 5 reasons why we've decided to develop a homestead. We're in our 50s, so it may be a little unusual to, consider homesteading in your 50s. But here's our top 5 reasons why we decided to do it. Number 1, I'm going to say number 5. I'll go from number 5 to the number 1 reason. So starting with number 5, we live rural. So as I mentioned many times, we're in a rural part of the country. We're on the southern coast of Oregon. It's a difficult place to get to. And the result is there's not a lot of people around here. We're in a rainforest, so it's conducive to a climate that will allow us to grow virtually anything we want, but also offers a great foraging environment. So the idea of living rural means that you don't have a big city to spend your time in. There aren't theater. I mean, we've got our local community theater, but there's not, big production theaters and, restaurants and stadiums and sports teams and things to occupy your time when you live rural. So you're basically tuned in a little bit more to nature, which is what we love. And so we thought that, the way to physically connect with getting tuned in with nature is by way of homesteading. And so that's our number 5 reason for pursuing this homesteading goal. Number 4 is the idea of self-reliance. So we love the idea of being able to do things on our own and not having to rely on either other people or other systems for us. You guys have seen in my videos, I change my own oil. I do all the mechanical work on our automobiles, which are older automobiles. We do that on purpose. It's easier to work on those automobiles. Again, we're rural, so if I had to take my wife's car, Lisa's car, in for service, I'd have to do that in Medford, which is 3.5 hours from here. So we like the idea of being self-reliant, and that spans the whole spectrum of self-reliance. So not just mechanical stuff, but growing our own food, for example. We've talked about that. Again, going back to being rural, we're also, we're subject to, there's only one road that runs through where we live, and that's US 101, which runs up and down the coast of the western United States. And we had an incident a couple of years ago where 101 to the south of us, about 15 miles south, washed out and completely collapsed in a rainstorm during the winter. So the access was cut off to the southern route from where we live. 3 days later, a washout occurred about 15 miles to the north of us. And it was not as major as the one to the south, but it did wash out part of the road and stop traffic for about 2 days. That was a wake-up call for us, because if there's no ingress or egress by way of US 101, that can really put a damper on bringing essential supplies into this community: gas, groceries, etc., etc. And there's really no other way to get in and out of here. There are some logging roads that you can try to negotiate going into the mountains, but you've got to have the right kind of vehicle to do that. So that set us up to become more aware of the fact that we need to be self-reliant in the event that we get cut off from those supply routes. Also, simple things like first aid. We have a hospital right here in our town, but it's a level 2 trauma center, and anything beyond that, you're going to be flown to a bigger city. And we all have, all of us that live in this community have insurance that provides for helicopter transportation to the bigger cities. But we want to know how to, perform our own basic first aid. I've known friends in the past that have kids that are in their teens or early 20s that have no clue how to even repair a basic cut. So anyway, I'm getting too deep in that. Number 4 is self-reliance. Number 3 reason for us pursuing this homestead is the current economic situation in our country, and in the West, generally speaking, but specifically in the United States. We have concerns about our national debt, for example, approaching $32 trillion. $32 trillion. That is a number that is nearly impossible to actually fathom. When I was born in 1966, the national debt in 1966 was $320 billion. It was 40% of the gross domestic product. That's manageable. Today, approaching $32 trillion. That's almost $250,000 per taxpayer in this country of debt burden, which is insane. So, that's 125% of our GDP today. That is not sustainable, people. When you layer on top of that a fiat currency. So, Lisa and I, we're not idiots. We're sensitive to the fact that this is a house of cards in a lot of ways. And we want to be prepared should that house of cards fall. And we feel like developing this homestead to become more self-reliant, self-sustainable is the right thing for us to do. The number 2 reason for developing this homestead is our children, the future generation. And that can't be expressed more, importantly than what I just said about, it's them that are taking on this debt that we have as a country. Their tax rates are going to go up and up and up, and somebody's got to pay for this debt, and I don't see an obvious solution to it, other than I mean, there are some ideas out there that are very unique, especially dealing with artificial intelligence and so forth. There's some clever ideas that may mitigate some of the poverty that we experience around the world, etc. Getting way down a different rabbit hole. Bottom line is, if things were to go south in a horrible way, this homestead that we're developing will be a place of refuge for family. And it's a place to come and live a simple life and still have all of the basic necessities provided. Housing, food, again, growing our own food, foraging, fishing, and it's insulation for those times when that potentially could come. And then finally, the number 1 reason for us developing this homestead is what we call the third quarter. So Lisa and I are both in our 50s. Lisa had a birthday a couple of days ago, and she's 55. I'm about to turn 57. And we look at life in terms of quarters. So the first 25 years of our life was one quarter, and then 25 to 50 was a different quarter, and now we're in the third quarter. So we looked at each other a few years back and said, you know, how is the third quarter going to be different than the second quarter? What do we want to do different? And it's a new chapter, if you want to think of it that way. And for us, you know, we both sort of migrated to this part of the world independent of one another, knowing that we were searching out a simpler life, a simpler way of living. We both had come from, you know, a big city jobs and lots of money and chasing the dollar and all this stuff that comes along with that, but realized that, is that really bringing us happiness? Or were the best times of those years when we went on vacation into the wilderness? For me, it was when I went on vacation into the wilderness that was the best time of my life. So why not live that life? And so that is the number one reason for us developing this homestead. We're kids again. We're, you know, I'm gonna build this house on this homestead by myself. It's a dream I've always had, was to build my own house. So I'm gonna do that, you know. We're gonna grow food. We have that existing orchard, which is awesome. We're gonna do lots of stuff with that orchard. And just live, hopefully, a humble and simple life in our third quarter and fourth quarter for that matter. And hopefully create a legacy homestead that we can pass on to future generations. So those are the top 5 reasons for us developing this homestead. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is that something that you've done in the past? Is it something that you're interested in doing? If so, tell me why. And if you've done it, you know, tell us the ups and downs. I mean, why, you know, what's the best thing that came out of that for you? All right, guys. Well, good morning, guys. So I'm back at the homestead property, and Gary, as I mentioned, was out here yesterday doing the final grade work, and man, what a difference did it make. This is all, he actually did a grade here where the house was, and then brought a roller in and flattened it all out, compacted it real nice. It looks awesome. He also, I told you yesterday that he was gonna pull out this old cherry tree, real old lady, right where we wanted to have the RV site. So he's done that and sort of pushed it to the edge of the hill over there. And I'll cut that up and use that for firewood and smoker wood as well. Anyway, I'm just tickled. The other thing he did for us is, if you remember, on the other side of the specimen coastal redwood tree, initially in the early days we thought this was a Port Orford cedar, but it's actually a coastal redwood. Beautiful tree. On the back side of that, we had, you know, the hill started to fall off, and it was overgrown with bramble and, you know, tree limbs that had come down and everything. He went ahead and graded that whole side of the property, and it's added probably, I don't know, maybe 200 feet or more. And probably 50 or 60 feet going toward the slope of the hill. I'll take you over there. It looks awesome. Yeah, so this is awesome. So again, everything to this side of the grass line was all overgrown weeds and bramble and fallen trees and small bushes. And so he went ahead and bulldozed all that down, pushed it over toward the edge of the hill here, and graded this out. So, you know, added a huge amount of usability to this part of the property, especially down in front of the shop there. that opens up quite a bit with plenty of room to park the cargo trailer, for example, or a flatbed trailer. So it's going to work out great. I'm just tickled with how this turned out. And finally, as I mentioned yesterday, he also did some driveway repair for us. Well, it turned out he brought in 2 loads of 3/4 inch crushed and actually regraded and compacted the driveway all the way down to the road. So, and he carved out the drainage swales as well. So we're good to go on the driveway as well. Super happy. Well, guys, thanks for joining me this week. As I mentioned, the sun is shining, it's warm. Looking forward to diving into that next build project, which hopefully we'll get started on next week. Waiting for that metal roof to be delivered, and once that's done, we'll be good to go with that. Lots of other build projects as well. I need to build some steps going up to the garden area. We've got to develop the RV pad. That'll be one of the next steps as well. Next projects rather. And lots of other stuff. So again, I appreciate you joining me this week. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do like and share the video. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.